Yesterday we talked about the globe and the Earth and the different features of the Earth. Today we're going to be talking all about maps. So make sure you've got your note sheet up and you're going to be filling it out as we go along through the slideshow today. So what is a map? So a map is a representation of part of the Earth on a flat surface. So it's basically just taking part of the Earth, put it on a piece of paper or on a screen on a flat surface so we can see what it looks like. One type of a map is a physical map. It shows the physical features of an area. Easy to remember, physical map shows the physical features. So on your note sheet next to physical map, you're going to write the definition here. Show the physical features of an area. A physical feature would be something like the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the Gulf, or oceans. You also see deserts and plains and wooded areas. Those are your physical features. So a physical map is going to show you those physical features on there. Another type of map is a political map. The definition that you would write down is it shows the boundaries between countries, states, or provinces. Often they also show the major cities on the map as well. So you can see this political map of the United States. It shows the boundaries or the state lines for each of the states, but it also shows the boundary between the United States and the country of Canada and the country of Mexico. This political map also does show one major city. It shows our nation's capital of Washington, D.C. So again, a political map shows the boundaries between countries, states, or provinces. So you're writing this down for your definition. So we have a physical map that shows the physical features and a political map that shows the boundaries. So there's different characteristics of a map, different things that all maps typically have. The first one is the title. What is a title? Well, a title tells you what the map is about. So on your notes, you're putting this definition down. You're putting, tells us what the map is all about. So take a look at this map real quick. What is the title of this map? It's world population. That's the title. So that means this map is going to tell us all about the world population. So you can see it tells us down here that one dot represents 100,000 people. So we can see where the people are living in the world. So again, the title tells us what the map is about. Like this one is about world population. The next feature is the legend, or you could hear it sometimes called the map key as well. This is what a legend will look like. It'll be a little box with symbols and words. The legend explains what the symbols on the map mean. So on maps, you'll see different symbols, sometimes dots, blue lines, stars, different symbols, and the legend or the map key will explain what those mean. So if you look here, if you see a star on this map, that means there's a nuclear plant there. If you see a blue line, what does that mean? It means there's a river. So the map legend or the map key is going to explain what the symbols on the map mean. Next we have the compass rose. This is a compass rose. What does a compass rose do? The compass rose points out the directions. It tells where north, south, east, and west are. So we can see we have the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. And one way to remember it is if you go clockwise, you could say never eat soggy waffles. That way you can remember north is here, east, south, west. Now we do have directions in between those cardinal directions. Those are called intermediate directions. So if we have this intermediate direction here, it would be northeast because it's between north and east. So we have northeast. We have this intermediate direction. What would that be? It's between south and east. So it's southeast. We have another one here. It's between south and west. So it is southwest. We have between north and west, which is northwest. So again, the definition of a compass rose is it points out directions. Tells you what the directions are. The next feature of a map is the map scale, or the scale bar. So this is what a map scale looks like. A map scale shows how much smaller the map is than the actual area it represents. It shows how much smaller the map is than the actual area it represents. So because we can't put the actual distance on the map, because that would be a huge map, we have to make the map smaller. So with this map scale, we see that 1 centimeter on the map represents 100 miles in real life. So if we had 2 centimeters on the map for a distance between two places, that'd be 200 miles in real life. What if we had 1.5 centimeters on the map? How many miles would that be in real life? That'd be 150 miles. It's between 100 and 200, so 150 miles. So again, the map scale shows how much smaller the map is than the actual area it represents. So how we can do this is, you can remember the 3 M's to know how to figure out the distance on the map. So first you measure the scale bar to see how many miles are in 1 inch. And once you do that, once you figure it out, then you measure the distance between the 2 cities or the 2 points on the map in inches. Then you're going to multiply that number of miles that are equal to 1 inch by the number of inches you measured. So let's try it out so we can make sense of how to do this. So if we look here, we have this point and this point that we want to see how far apart they are. So if we are measuring, we can see that it's 1, 2, 3 inches between the 2 points. Now it's really hard to see down here, but 1 inch is 200 miles. 1 inch equals 200 miles. So if 1 inch equals 200 miles, we're going to take 200 miles and multiply that by 3 for 3 inches, because we're doing 200, 200, 200. And the actual distance between these two is 600 miles. So the scale bar says 1 inch equals 200 miles. The distance between the stars is 3 inches. So we took 3 inches, the distance between, multiplied by 200 miles. How many miles in 1 inch? And the distance is 600 miles. So now you're going to take a moment and you're going to figure out this one. So our map scale here tells us that 1 inch equals 300 miles. So we're going to measure from this star to this star. This how many inches? How many inches are between these 2 stars? And then you're going to take the fact that you know that 1 inch equals 300 miles. You're going to multiply that by how many inches are in between. Find out what the total distance in real life is between the 2 stars. I'll give you a minute to figure that out, and we'll check your answer. All right, so it is 3 inches, 1, 2, 3 inches between the stars. And we knew 1 inch equals 300 miles. So we're taking the 3 inches, multiply by 300 miles, because we're doing 300, 300, 300, for a total of 900 miles. So the actual distance between the stars is 900 miles. The next map feature is the locator map. So on your note sheet, you're going to type in a locator map shows you where in the world the area on the map is located. So this little box here is the locator map. This is the map we're looking at. It's a map of Florida and its counties. But then we have the locator map here to show us that this red area is what's on the map. So locator map just shows you where in the world the area on the map is located. Now maps also have what's called grids. What is a grid? A grid is a pattern of lines drawn on a map. Now we have these lines drawn on a map to help people locate places. So if we're looking at this map here, we can look at this hot air balloon, and we can use the grid to know that the hot air balloon is in B3. So we're looking, we have B3. We know the hot air balloon is in B3. What animal is located in D3? What animal is located in D3? Well, if we go to D and we follow it to the 3, we say that the animal that's located at D3 is the horse. So now, where is the seagull, the bird, located? Where is the seagull located? So if we look, the bird's here, so we know that it's in 1, and it's in F. So it's in F1. The seagull's in F1. So a grid just helps you pinpoint where places are and talk about different places where they are. Our Earth also has a grid. We use latitude and longitude lines to make an imaginary grid on the Earth. Latitude and longitude. So latitude we talked about a little bit in the last lesson, but latitude measures north and south of the equator. So here we have the equator, and that one's horizontal, and latitude are these lines here going north and south of the equator. One way to help you remember that the lines going this way are latitude is think of a ladder. It looks like you're climbing up a ladder. So latitude runs north and south of the equator. Latitude. So on your note sheet, you're writing down measures distance north and south of the equator. That's latitude. Then we have longitude. Longitude measures the distance east and west of the prime meridian. So remember, we have the prime meridian at 0 degrees longitude, and the longitude lines measure distance west and east. So it's these red lines measuring west and these blue lines measuring east of the prime meridian. So we have the latitude measuring north and south of the equator, longitude measuring west and east. So make sure you're writing this definition down on your note sheet. Latitude and longitude make a grid so we can find things on the Earth. Latitude lines are called parallels. They're called parallels. So when you're hearing someone talk about parallels on the Earth, they're talking about the lines of latitude. And meridians are the longitude lines. So, you know, if you think about the prime meridian, it's the main meridian. So the meridians are the lines of latitude and lines of longitude. So you see the parallels there. They run horizontal, they're parallel, and they measure the latitude. The equator is 0 degrees latitude. When we are talking about latitude and longitude, they are measured in degrees. And this is just a neat little fact. These are the countries that the equator runs through. There's 12 countries that the equator runs through. And then the meridians, if you see, you have the prime meridian at 0 degrees longitude, and then on the other side of it is this line at 180 degrees, which is the international date line. So they run from the North Pole to the South Pole, and we measure longitude by using meridians. And again, the prime meridian is 0 degrees longitude. And like we talked about last video as well, the prime meridian and the equator divide the world into 4 hemispheres. So if we look at the prime meridian, it splits the world into a western hemisphere and an eastern hemisphere. If you notice here, we have North America, South America, part of Antarctica. In the eastern, we have Europe, Asia's over there, Africa and Australia in the Eastern Hemisphere. So the prime meridian divides the world into the Western and Eastern hemispheres. Then the equator divides the world into a Northern Hemisphere and a Southern Hemisphere. So I want you to think, which two hemispheres do you live in? So looking at North America, are you in the Northern or Southern Hemisphere? North America, is it the Northern or Southern? And is it the Western or Eastern? Which two is North America located? North America is in the Northern Hemisphere and the Western. So we are in the Northwestern Hemisphere. Northwestern. So this gives you just a view. This is like if you're looking at the top of the world, the top of the Northern Hemisphere. So you've got like Europe and Russia and Asia, and you have North America up here. And then this is looking at the bottom of the Southern Hemisphere. So here's Antarctica looking at the bottom. And then this is looking at the side of the Eastern Hemisphere. So here you have India, Africa, Australia. And then over on the Western Hemisphere, we have North America and South America. So when you're talking about latitude and longitude, kind of like when we were talking about that map that had the animals on it, and we were telling the letters and numbers, you also use the degrees latitude and the degrees longitude to tell where something is located on the Earth. So you always say the latitude first, and then the longitude. One little trick is to remember, latitude comes first alphabetically, so it'd be latitude, then longitude, alphabetically. So that'll help you remember that. So for example, if we were looking at a world map, Cairo, Egypt is found at 30 degrees north. So if we had the Earth, we had the equator, we would go 30 degrees north of the equator. And then we're looking at the prime meridian, we have 30 degrees east of the prime meridian. So Cairo, Egypt would be about right there. So we cited the latitude, 30 degrees north of the equator, and then the longitude, 30 degrees east of the prime meridian. So we're going to take a little bit of time to practice with this. So if we're looking, and if we're wanting to know the coordinates, where it's at, latitude and longitude of the letter G, we're going to first look at the latitude, which if you remember, it's the lines running north and south of the equator. So we're going to look at that. We're going to go to G. So we're going to go 20 degrees north, 40 degrees north. Okay, there's that. We're going to go over to G. So we know it's 40 degrees north. And then we're going to go to our longitude. So here's our 0 degrees longitude. We're going to go 20 degrees west, 40 degrees west, 60 degrees west, 80 degrees west, 100 degrees west. We're going to trace that down and meet at the G. So we know that G is located at 40 degrees north and 100 degrees west. So that is the location of letter G on the Earth. It's 40 degrees north, 100 degrees west. Now we're going to practice another one. All right, now we're going to find the coordinates for letter A. So we're going to find the coordinates of letter A. I'll give you a minute to try it yourself. So finding the letters of coordinate A. Remember, you're looking at the latitude first, so you're going to find the degrees south. And then you'll look at the longitude, so then you'll find the degrees east or west for letter A. Finding the coordinates for letter A. look at letter A. So we're going to first do our latitude. Here's our equator. So we know we're going to go south. So we're going south down here, 20 degrees south. So we'll follow it down 20 degrees south. It's here. So follow over to the A. And now we're going to do our longitude. So we're going over 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. We're going to measure up to the 100. So we know letter A is at 20 degrees south, 100 degrees east, because we went east of the equator. All right, we're going to do practice one more. So we're going to look at, I want you to tell me what letter is located at 20 degrees north and 40 degrees east. What letter is located at 20 degrees north and 40 degrees east? I'll give you just a minute. I'm looking at what letter is located at 20 degrees north, 40 degrees east. So we're going to take a look. So we're going 20 degrees north. So here's our equator right here. Then we're going 20 degrees north. Okay, and we're going to look for 40 degrees east, 20, 40 degrees east. And where they meet is letter H. So H was at 20 degrees north, 40 degrees east. So if you missed any of the notes, you can always go back, pause, go forward, backwards. So fill out your note sheet, and then down at the bottom, you have a little bit of a matching, just kind of to test what you learned today, and you can use your notes to help you on that. But you have 7 questions, and then to the right of those questions, you have a word bank of 7 different answers. So like for number 1, it says show symbols and colors used on a map. And you're going to decide if that's A, lines of latitude, B, political map, C, physical map, D, map scale, E, lines of longitude, F, legend, or G, compass rose. So decide which one it is and put the correct letter on the blank by the number 1. And then you'll do the same for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If you have any questions, definitely email me, message me on Teams, message me on Remind, and I will get back to you.